Alright, next up we got Bridger Bush playing Hot Cross Buns.
Performing honestly kinda sucks.
So much is invested inside of a performance, and the feeling you get from it is just euphoric, it's blissful. Having an artistic performance, be it music, drama, dance, whatever it might be, is an expression of yourself, thus a connection to you. And if you don't do well at something that expresses yourself, it tears you deep inside. It's not a good feeling. Performing sucks. And to put yourself out there, it really is just, it takes confidence, it takes bravery, self-conviction that you can put yourself out there and be judged by others about how you express yourself. Because of this feeling, most performances to the performer themselves feels like a flop. This is something that you've been working on for weeks and weeks and weeks, when you perfect it in the practice room. But then suddenly you get on stage, your body decides, now is the moment to panic. Your heart starts pumping, you have this dryness in your mouth. Your mouth is like entering into the Sahara. Your brain forgets how to play music in the first place. It's like as if you've never seen a trumpet before. It's like, what this do? What music? What fingers? Silence. Oh, that performance silence. This is especially a problem when it comes to classical music. It's just so quiet and bare and dry. Just hearing nothing but what you got from me. So how do you get over those nerves? Well, I don't know. Actually, I think I do. I still get nervous, but I've learned to translate it into something really good, and I know how to work with those nerves and coping mechanisms to get yourself to perform. So why does this happen? And how can this be combated? Practice. The easiest step is to practice it. It's to learn the piece in and out. Eat, drink, and breathe it. Think about it when you go to bed, and think about it the first thing when you wake up. Get it so it's so ingrained into yourself that it becomes a part of you. Duh, right? Big duh. But once you get the practice under your hands, that's when you can start kind of doing some training exercises to help get over those nerves. So a performance, when you look at it separated from practice, when you look at it in two different ways, you'll see that the performance itself is very different. You're performing on a different stage, most likely. You're performing in front of a bunch of people that you've never met, or like people that are really important to you, and suddenly, like, just the whole environment going around into it, these variables come in that you just didn't expect to have happen.
What the heck, man?
How can you simulate that unclear, random variables that might come into a performance? That's where you should start, with the performance first. Simulate a performance. Have a mock performance every single day. Start the piece that you're playing from beginning to end as if you're on stage performing it. Once you perform the piece, that's when you start to analyze it a little bit and see, where did things go wrong? This, and this. Okay, then you start to work on that piece again for the day. So how do you simulate that mock performance exactly? How do you get that?
Finding some kind of Joe Schmo and having him sit in front of you. Come on, it's so easy.
Adding new people, it adds this element of randomness, right? It's a bunch of people that have never heard you perform this piece before. But does that free you from the nerves during the actual performance? Not quite. Nah. If there's one thing that I can attest to for a performance, is that your heart does not like to be calm when you're performing. Your heart beats fast. You get nervous. You get that tenseness. You start sweating a little bit. And it's just like you can't control that. So how do you recreate that feeling? This technique, I actually learned this from my private teacher, would jog up and down the stairs at our building, probably like 3 times in a row, going up and down. Not too fast, not too hard, just enough for me to get my heart going, just a little bit, right? And then when I get to the bottom after the third going up and down the stairs, I would go immediately into the room and perform the piece. It's not going to be exactly the same as those tense nerves, but it gives you kind of a sense of feeling of like, oh, I gotta control my breathing a little bit. Your heart's gonna start pumping like on the pump's iron.
So what you do now is you get some ears, you put them outside or something, and then you go on a little run around the building, and then you come back and you perform it for them!
That's going to be very close to an experience you're going to have for an actual performance. But now, let's talk about the big day itself. Good morning, beautiful. Today's the day. The way that you act today is so vitally, crucially important. Listen, look at me. Absolutely, more than anything else you've ever done, this is so important. You need to make this day as normal as possible. Eat foods that are normal to you, drink whatever liquids you usually drink. Have it be a calm, normal day, just like any other day. Don't go out eating different things that you shouldn't. Don't try to do something different because it might help you theoretically in that performance. No, your body's not used to it. Your body likes consistency. And in a performance, you need everything leading up to it to be as consistent as possible. Eliminate those variables. We all know that one guy that before a performance eats like the hottest chili pepper they've ever had in their life, like mere minutes before a performance, and you hear how bad they do because the body's not ready to process that. And when the body's processing something brand new, what do you think's gonna happen when you play? Don't do that. Wait until after the performance to celebrate, to eat out, to go do whatever you do that's different. But when the performance actually happens, you need everything leading up to it to be as calm and normal as possible. It's going to bring you to a zen state that you need to be in to feel that rich, gooey, chocolatey yumminess in your performance.
My mouth is so dry.
So what is dry mouth? It's exactly what it sounds like. It's when all the liquid, the saliva, just seems to randomly escape from your mouth the moment you start performing. This is especially a big problem when it comes to wind players, brass players in particular. If you don't have any liquid or moisture in your mouth, then you got no way of actually playing. It's kind of weird. Everything just comes out airy and it feels like you're kind of choking a little. There are 3 ways I've learned to combat dry mouth. And it's a feeling that you won't feel until you have your first performance. Then I guarantee you're going to have a moment of like, why is this happening to me? The first method about combating dry mouth that I remember learning was Alan Vazzuti. He has his book of I think it's Complete Method, Volume 1. He says in there the idea of whenever you get dry mouth, you take his and you brush it on the very front of your teeth, or the back of your teeth right here. You do it very lightly because that's supposed to start creating new saliva back into your mouth. Maybe it works. I'll be honest, I think I tried it once and I don't think it worked, but it could. Give it a shot for yourself if you think. The second way, I remember my old teacher in high school telling me this. He would take like a lemon and drink it before a performance because that acidity would go in your mouth and it would create, saliva. That one just sounds gross to me. I don't like that one. And I think that the most foolproof way of avoiding dry mouth, truly, bring a water bottle. Bring a water bottle with you. If you're performing, if there's any kind of break in between before you perform the piece and after, take a sip. Take a swig of water. Every time there's a rest in your piece, take a sip. And if you're performing for people who frown upon the idea of having a
Bottle of water on stage?
which I've dealt with before, then take a cup of water instead and throw it at them.
Disclaimer, please do not throw a bottle of water at anybody, especially your band director, you fool.
Make sure you have that bottle of water with you because it's going to help you. And that's going to combat the dry mouth. Now I want to talk about the most controversial opinion I have on this topic. First, you got to prep your work 100%. Like I mentioned before, eat, drink, sleep it. Sleep it? Think about it all the time. Learn that piece in and out and every intricacy. Make sure you are rock solid on everything. Make sure it's 100% perfect in a practice room. But a performance is different. Variables come up. Things happen. Crap happens. Your brain doesn't like to work well. You might make stupid mistakes with your fingers. You might have dry mouth, but you're trying to combat it, but you still have dry mouth. Things are going to happen. You might not hit
that high note.
And the reason I tell you when you practice a performance, you got to start from the top and end at the end and just make sure that you don't stop in between or start something over. That's how a performance is going to go. And you got to accept the fact that there's going to be some mistakes. Just move on to the next thing, and then you're going to be good. I promise you, no one's going to care about that one note you might have missed. I think it's fair to say you can perform about 80% to the level of what you're expecting in a performance. If you get 80% of your performance perfect, then you did it. Congratulations. Round of applause for him. Woo! If you get below that, that's when you need to kind of go back and assess things. Take a critical thought yourself and see what went wrong. What do I need to do to change this? But if you get 80% and above it, fantastic. You just had a great performance. Don't let it get you down. Yes, expect to do 100% of a good performance. But if something happens, don't beat yourself up afterwards. And that brings another point to me. I actually am a believer in the idea that you shouldn't listen to a performance that you do immediately after it's done. You're going to be way too critical. You're going to be way too harsh on it. I usually wait a few days. In fact, my senior recital, I actually waited like a month after I performed it before I could listen to it, just because I knew I was going to be too critical. It was too soon for me. Now I can look back on it and actually assess how well I did and do it with actually good ears rather than me hearing, oh, the note right there wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. Anxiety is actually a good thing, okay? It's okay to be nervous because that means you care. You care if you get nervous. And take that nervous energy and propel it into your music. Make the best performance you can and take that like good jitters and make that into something beautiful. You can channel it, you can work it and make it better. You do the things that I showed you to combat all the weird variables, but it's okay to be nervous because it means that you give a darn about how well you perform.